Hello and welcome back. Today we're going to talk about the Ford F-150 Lightning's intelligent backup power system. With that system, you can power your house with your Ford F-150 Lightning in the case of power interruption or some kind of natural disaster. The vehicle can deliver up to 9.6 kilowatt to the house, and that's enough power to power most of the house. It's actually a lot of power. It's one of the first electric vehicles that can actually communicate from the vehicle to the house and send it power instead of just accepting power from your house to charge the vehicle. I realized last week that there wasn't a lot of information out there on this system. I did a video on everything you need to know about charging the Ford F-150 Lightning. At the very end of the video, I talked a little bit about intelligent backup power system. Just a little bit, just to kind of give an overview, and I got tons of questions. I realized at that point, people really don't know anything about this. I mean, yeah, it can power your house, 9.6 kilowatt, that's great. Ford shows videos of the truck plugged into the house, the power goes out, and all of a sudden the power's back on. That's great, but they don't really explain very much else about how the system works. And as with everything, the devil is in the details. So I reached out to Ford and said, look, I want to do a video on this to explain how the system works because a lot of people have a lot of questions about it. Ford was gracious enough to say, no problem. What we'll do is we'll set you up with Ryan O'Gorman. He's Ford's Energy Services co-lead and head of intelligent backup power. So this is the guy that we want to talk to. And we did. I spoke with him a couple days ago. I pulled all the comments off of my YouTube channel. I picked out 15 of the most common questions asked, and that's what I asked Ryan. So this video is going to be 15 questions about the Ford Intelligent Backup Power System. The most important questions, the questions that everybody wants to know. So we're going to get to that in a minute, but first, please don't forget, click that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you don't miss any upcoming content here on State of Charge. Okay, first up, I'm going to get the most frequently asked question out of the way. On Ford's website, it says that the system requires a 320 amp service at your home. And so many people sent me messages and asked me questions. How could this be true? So few people have a 320 amp service at their house. I mean, some people have 100 amp services, 150, 200 amps is really common. Some of the really newer homes, if they're bigger, might have more than 200 amp service, but a very small percentage of the homes in the US have more than a 200 amp service. So, I asked Ford that straight up and said, look, I read it on your website. How can this be? Almost nobody's going to be able to use this. And they told me straight out, well, that's not exactly correct. You don't need a 320 amp service to have this Ford Station Pro and to have intelligent backup power. So I said, well, why in the world does it say that? Everybody is messaging me, you probably lost sales because of it, where people said, well, I'm not going to get the truck if I can't use the backup power, and the website says you need 320 amp service. So they admitted that it was wrong. It was done. They did some calculations. Some engineer probably calculated that, if you have a 200 amp service and you want to add the 100 amp Charge Station Pro, that's 300. And I don't know, they came up with some calculation and came up with 320. I couldn't get a clear answer exactly why. Basically I said, that's ridiculous. You've got to change that. And the good news is 3 days after I did this interview, Ford updated their website, and it no longer says you require a 320 amp service. It now just says the Ford Charge Station Pro needs a 100 amp dedicated circuit. So we made some headway already with Ford, which is really good. Good on them for recognizing there was an issue there and updating it. So basically, what do you need then? What is there a minimum requirement? It's really impossible to say because it's going to depend on house to house. How many circuits you have, how many electrical appliances running. Do you have gas, heat, and gas appliances, or do you run those on electric? They take up heavy circuits, like 50 amp and 40 amp circuits for electric ranges, for your heater. If you have all electric heat and only 150 amp main, you probably can't do it without a service upgrade. But every house is going to be specifically different depending on how many circuits you have. Do you have a hot tub? Do you have a pool? Those have dedicated 40 amp or 50 amp circuits. But many houses, if you have say a 200 amp service, if you don't use electric heat, electric cooking appliances, if you run on gas, most of those homes are going to be able to have a dedicated 100 amp circuit. So, while I can't say exactly what'll work, you need to have your electrician take a look at your house to really see how much of the existing capacity you're using and how much extra you have. In many instances, you'll still be able to use Ford Intelligent Backup Power and Charge Station Pro. And that brings us to our second question. Does Ford Charge Station Pro require a 100 amp dedicated circuit? And the answer is no, it doesn't. Now it does if you wanted to supply the full 80 amps to your Lightning, which is 19.2 kilowatts delivered to the truck. Now that'll charge the truck really quickly. It's the fastest way to charge it at home on AC power. Now the extended range F-150 Lightning has a 131 kilowatt hour battery pack. The standard range F-150 Lightning has a 98 kilowatt hour battery pack. Now those are usable capacities. That's how much energy you can pump into the battery. So they're big batteries. Even the standard range Lightning has a big battery. So you really kind of want to charge it quickly at home. And that's why Ford is providing this 80 amp charging station. But when you're setting it up, you can derate the power to match what you have available from your service panel. So let's say you can only have a 60 amp circuit. You can set the charging station to have a 60 amp limit. Well, it'll actually deliver 48 amps because you can only deliver 80% of what the circuit is on. That's why you need a 100 amp circuit to deliver the 80 amps the Charge Station Pro can deliver. So if you have a 60 amp circuit, you can deliver 48 amps. If you have a 40 amp circuit, you can deliver 32 amps and so forth. You can derate Ford Charge Station Pro all the way down to only a 20 amp circuit if that's all you have at your house. Now, it's kind of a waste because it can deliver so much power, but hey, if that's all you have and you don't want to pay for a whole home upgrade, you only need a 20 amp circuit and you can still use the Ford Charge Station Pro. So that brings us to our next question. If I derate the Ford Charge Station Pro down under 100 amps, say all the way down to a 20 amp circuit, can I still use intelligent backup power? The answer is yes, you can. It does not matter what circuit you have Charge Station Pro on to charge the car, because the charging side and the intelligent backup power side of the Charge Station Pro are completely separate. So it does not matter how much power you have charging the Lightning, you can still use intelligent backup power at its full rate, the 9.6 kilowatt, to power your home. Next question is, how long is the cable on the Ford Charge Station Pro? If you park your truck in the driveway, will it reach the charging station? That's a good question, and I have a good answer. It's 25 feet long, which is actually the longest any cable on a charging station is allowed to be by NEC code. So Ford put the longest cable on there they're allowed to. It's 25 feet long. Depending on where you park your F-150 Lightning, that's how you'll determine where you're going to install Ford Charge Station Pro. Make sure that you're less than 25 feet. I mean, you probably want to be less than 20 feet from where you're installing it, because you don't want the cable to be a big straight rope going from the charging station to the truck. That would not be good. So give yourself some, extra room. I mean, if you don't have your truck yet, it wouldn't be a bad idea to get like a 25-foot rope and see where you're going to be parking your truck and play around with it to make sure if you don't park your truck in your garage, if it's going to be outside, you got to make sure that cable's going to reach the charge port, which is on the front driver's side panel of the F-150 Lightning. The next question is Ford's Charge Station Pro a DC fast charger? I noticed that it uses the CCS connector, which is what you find on DC fast chargers. That was a good question. I actually have one of the CCS connectors with me right here. And if you notice in my charging video, I pointed out that Ford Charge Station Pro uses the CCS connector. not the J1772 connector that you'll see on pretty much every other charging station that you can buy. Ford's connected charge station as well as Ford's mobile charger that comes with the Lightning. They both use the J1772 connector, which you see here. And that's what you typically find on level 2 charging, which is what Ford Charge Station Pro is. It's a level 2 charger. It's one of the highest powered level 2 chargers you could find, but level 2 charging is on 240 volt AC electric. So why does it use this connector? And that's a good question. I talked a little bit about this in the charging video, but I think it's worth going over now. So when the F-150 Lightning is being charged by the Ford Charge Station Pro, it's only using the J1772 pins. Now I want you to take a look here. Not sure how good you can see this. You see the top of the CCS connector? This looks exactly the same as this because it is exactly the same. This is called the combo or CCS connector because it combines a J1772 connector with these two pins on the bottom, which are the DC fast charging pins. This is what gets delivered when you're DC fast charging, and this gets used when you're AC charging or slower charging. So the Ford Charge Station Pro needs this connector for intelligent backup power, not for charging. When you're charging your F-150 Lightning, only these pins here are going to be used. When the F-150 Lightning is backfeeding the house, the power's coming out of the battery in direct current, DC. So the DC pins are what's going to feed the power from the truck to the to the Charge Station Pro, which is then going to communicate and send the power to your intelligent backup power system. When you're charging the electric vehicle, it's AC, alternating current, and it's going through these pins. When you're backfeeding your house, it's DC electric, and it's using these pins below. So even though it uses this connector, it's not a DC fast charger. It's a regular AC level 2 charger, albeit a very powerful one. The next question is, can you charge a Tesla vehicle with Ford Charge Station Pro? I had one of my followers say, look, I already own a Tesla and I'm going to get the F-150 Lightning. Can I replace my Tesla wall connector with the Ford Charge Station Pro? I don't want to have two circuits going to the garage, a 60 amp circuit and a 100 amp circuit. I don't have enough capacity, but I can get rid of the 60 amp and upgrade it to a 100 amp circuit. Unfortunately, you can't. Let me explain why. So this is a J1772 connector. This is a Tesla adapter. It's called the J1772 to Tesla adapter. And what you do to charge a Tesla with a J1772 charge station, like the Ford connected home charge station or the Ford mobile charger, you can charge Tesla vehicles with those chargers, but not with the Ford Charge Station Pro. And let me explain why. So here's the adapter. You put it on the J1772 and it clicks in there. And then you plug it into a Tesla. Works fine. Any J1772 equipped charging station can charge Tesla vehicles with this little adapter that Tesla provides with every one of their cars. You don't have to buy this. It comes with a Tesla. However, even though the CCS connector has a J1772 on top, take a look at here in the middle where the plastic connects the J1772 to the DC pins. There's always like a piece of plastic in here that connects it. And unfortunately, when you try to put the adapter in, it can't connect there because there's a piece on the bottom that has to slide underneath the J1772 pins. You can't do that because this little piece of plastic. Now the CCS connectors are all slightly different from different manufacturers, but all of the ones I noticed always have some kind of a little plastic in here that would prevent the Tesla adapter from snapping in. So I don't think it's going to be possible. Technically, you should be able to do it. If this would just snap into here, this would be able to charge a Tesla vehicle. But I think the way the CCS connectors are made, that none of them have the little, I say, like opening on the bottom to allow the Tesla adapter to slide and snap in. I had a few people say, hey Tom, I have a solar array. Will I be able to have the solar array operating when there's a power outage. Currently, I can't because when the power goes out, the solar array has to shut off because otherwise it would be backfeeding the grid. People working on the line could get hurt. It would pose a danger to the line workers. Unless you have a transfer switch to completely disconnect you from the grid, they call that islanding. When your house becomes an island, it's not physically connected to the grid. The transfer switch disconnects you from the grid, and the intelligent backup power system has a transfer switch. It's needed. So can my solar array continue to work if I have intelligent backup power? And the answer is maybe. Now, Ford said if you have a Sunrun system, the Sunrun system integrates into the intelligent backup system very well. It was designed to work together. The Sunrun systems will allow you to do that. But if you have a solar array that was installed by a different company and it's a different hardware, Ford can't guarantee if it'll work. If your inverters, if your hardware will actually be able to do that. You'll have to have a electrical professional or Sunrun, if you have Sunrun, do your installation of the intelligent backup power, tell you if they can do that. But technically, yes, you can have your solar array functioning in the case of a power outage with your F-150 Lightning plugged in and powering your house. The solar array can operate and contribute electric to the house. So it's taking some of the burden off the Lightning, delivering the rest of the power to your house. And then to follow up that last question with the next question, well, if that's happening, can the solar array actually be charging the F-150 Lightning? Like, well, excess power from the solar, let's say the house isn't using as much power as the solar array is producing, can it then overflow and charge the Lightning? Unfortunately, the answer for that is no, it currently can't. Ford said they're going to take a look at making some hardware integrated into the system that would allow you to do that. But the way it's currently set up, the solar array can contribute to powering your home, but it can't do that while also powering your F-150 Lightning's battery. So the next question is a big one. What equipment do I need for intelligent backup power to work? It's not like you just get your truck and drive it home and plug into your house. There's equipment that needs to be installed, and it's not inexpensive. First off, let's say you have the extended range battery pack Lightning. You're at the dealership picking it up. You get the Ford Charge Station Pro with that. It's not free. You paid for it in that option to buy the extended range battery pack. So you get that in a box. You also have to have the dealership turn on intelligent backup power. It doesn't come turned on out of the factory. So your dealer has to activate it on the vehicle. So now you drive home, you've got Charge Station Pro in a box, intelligent backup power is already turned on in your vehicle. Now you need to order from Sunrun what they call the home integration system. It's basically a kit, and it includes the transfer switch, an inverter, and also a small battery that Ford calls the Dark Star battery. Now, why do you need a battery? You need a battery because think about it. Power goes out. There's no power at your house. Charge Station Pro's dead. It's got no power. Your truck is plugged in. The truck needs to communicate with something to turn the system on. So this battery provides power to the system in that interim before the whole system kicks in and turns on. So the truck can communicate with the system, say, hey, there's no power here. Do you have power? Your truck says, oh yeah, I'm fully charged. All right, let's rock and roll. And the truck will turn on and intelligent backup power powers your home. And that leads us to our next question. I mentioned that Sunrun is going to be the equipment provider for all the equipment for intelligent backup power. And they are the recommended installer by Ford. Ford highly recommends you use Sunrun to install the system. But do you have to? Is it necessary? Can you have your own electrician, your own solar provider? Maybe you're a licensed electrician. You know the stuff inside and out. Can you do it? The answer is yes, you can. You do not have to have Sunrun do the installation. As I mentioned earlier, Ford highly recommends it. They told me they know the system inside and out. I mean, they're co-developing the components and everything. So they know the system inside and out. They're going to be installing, one after another. So they know everything that could go wrong and they know how to set it up properly. But hey, no, you do not have to use them. If you prefer to use your own company, or as I mentioned, if you yourself are a licensed electrical contractor, you can install it on your own. You are required to buy the equipment from Sunrun. You are not required to have them install it. So I just said that if you get an extended range F-150 Lightning, the intelligent backup power system comes standard with the vehicle. You get Ford Charge Station Pro for free, and your dealer will activate intelligent backup power. But what happens if you don't get the extended range battery pack? If you just get the standard range battery pack, can you get intelligent backup power? Is there any version of the F-150 Lightning that doesn't qualify for intelligent backup power? And the answer is no. There's no version that can't get it. So yes, you can get intelligent backup power on any Lightning. Even the least expensive Pro model with the standard range battery pack, you can get intelligent backup power. However, you've got to buy the Ford Charge Station Pro, which is an 80 amp charging station, as we mentioned, and 80 amp charging stations are expensive. If you go online and look, Clipper Creek makes one. I think it's like $2,200 or $2,300. A couple other companies make them. They're all over $2,000. And that's when like a third party makes them. I would imagine Ford is going to have a premium for the Charge Station Pro. I mean, even the Ford connected charge station is a 48 amp charging station, and Ford charges $799 for it. Most good, smart 48 amp charging stations today are available for $650 or $699. So, I mean, that's not uncommon. You're going to pay a little bit of a premium when you get it from the OEM. So I'm thinking that Ford's going to price Ford Charge Station Pro over $2,500. It might even be $3,000. I asked them for a price. They're not releasing pricing on it yet, but I would expect that you'd have to pay minimum of $2,500. That's just one cost. Now the next cost is you have to pay to have intelligent backup power activated on the truck. Comes standard with extended range, doesn't come standard with standard range. So you have to pay them. Again, I asked Ford, well, what's that going to cost to activate it on the Lightning? We're not releasing pricing details yet. So you're looking at $2,500 to $3,000 for the charging station. I don't have any idea what they're going to charge for intelligent backup power. Say it's $1,000. You're already paying, say, $3,500 to $4,000 towards the $10,000 option that the extended range battery pack was, and you didn't get that range. So, think about that hard. If you really want intelligent backup power, see if you can stretch your budget to get the extended range battery pack, because it's definitely a better deal. But the cost doesn't end there. Then you still have to buy the home integration system, which talk to Ford about that also. Sunrun isn't releasing pricing details on that yet. I can easily see the transfer switch, the inverter and the battery. I can easily see that package be $3,000, $4,000, $5,000. So, it's not inexpensive. This system, if you want intelligent backup power, you're going to be in for many thousands of dollars. But when you compare that to the cost of, say, a Tesla Powerwall or some sort of a stationary energy storage system in your home, it actually fares really well. So if that's something you really want, is some kind of a battery backup system for your house, even though the Lightning isn't going to be inexpensive to get this system running, it's still a much more cost-effective way to have emergency power at your house. Next up, will intelligent backup power affect your battery warranty? What if you use it all the time? I even threw the example at Ford was, what if I live in a really remote area and there's constantly power outages and I'm using an intelligent backup system every week, sometimes for days on end. I'm using the battery and you've warrantied this battery and half the use isn't even to drive the car. Is that going to affect my warranty? No, it won't. You can use intelligent backup system as much as you want. It'll have no impact on your battery warranty, at least for now. Ford is going to monitor this and see how this works out moving forward. The interesting thing is I really asked this question because I've had conversations with other OEMs about vehicle to grid, vehicle to home services with batteries. Tesla, or this Elon Musk, is on record saying, you know, no, we're not going to go down that road. We're not going to let people use their batteries to power their homes. I've had other representatives from other OEMs say, you know, it gets into a real, sticky situation. We're warranting the battery for automotive use. If somebody is let's say, using the battery to power their house when electricity rates are high, and then charging up the battery when electricity rates are low, kind of like what you can do with a Tesla Powerwall. You're doing that every day, using it to power your house, charging it at night, back and forth. That's going to have a lot of wear and tear on the battery, and that's not what the battery was really primarily made for. It was made for propelling the vehicle, and the manufacturers are giving you a warranty on that battery to propel the vehicle, not to power your house. So this is going to be an interesting space. Right now, at least, Ford is not going to let it impact your warranty at all. But watch this space, because moving forward in the next few years, as this becomes more common, vehicle to home, vehicle to grid integration, there's going to be limits, I'm telling you, on how much you're allowed to use your battery to do purposes other than power the vehicle. So that's something to keep an eye on in the coming years. This is just the very beginning of being able to use your vehicle to power your home. So I think all the manufacturers are kind of watching it and seeing how it affects the battery, degradation and so forth. But it's something to keep an eye on in this space in the coming years. Next up, will the system turn on automatically? Let's say the truck is plugged into the house and you have a power outage. Will it just turn on, or do you have to manually turn it on? I mean, Ford's videos show the power going out and then a woman holding up her smartphone and turning it on, and then the power going on. So do you have to manually turn it on, say through an app? And the answer is no, you don't. Ford is going to give you the opportunity to choose whether it's going to have manual activation or automatic activation. If you have it on automatic, the Lightning will automatically start to power your house when there's a power outage. Now, there's going to be a few second delay, maybe as many as 10, 15 seconds. I know I actually have a natural gas generator, a whole home generator on my house. And what happens is the power goes out and it waits about 10 seconds before it turns on, because it could just be a momentary interruption in power just for 5 or 6 seconds. So the system isn't going to turn on instantly. It starts counting down, and Ford told me it's definitely less than a minute. And actually, they're working on future updates that'll even shorten the time even less, so it'll turn on quicker. So if you have it turned on automatic, the power goes out. There's going to be a period of time, 10, 15, 20 seconds, somewhere around there, less than a minute for sure. And then it'll turn on and you'll just have power in the house. It's automatic, you don't have to do anything. If you have it on the manual, what'll happen is you get a power outage and your app will get a notification, the power's out, and it's going to ask you, do you want to turn on the system? And then at that point, you can turn it on or you can elect not to. It depends if you're home, what the state of charge is on the truck. Maybe the truck, you plugged it in, but it's only been charging for 20 minutes and only has 10% state of charge. So you might not want to turn it on to power the house at that point. But you'll have the option to have it either turn on automatically or that you manually turn it on. Next up, can you limit how low your state of charge gets while intelligent backup power is powering your house? Or will it just run down until your battery is completely depleted? So the answer is yes. You can set a low limit and the intelligent backup power won't exceed that. It'll shut off. You can set it in miles. You can say, hey, I don't want the truck to have less than 50 miles of range. I need to be able to run errands. I need to be able to get to a DC fast charger that's 20 miles away and then recharge the battery so I could drive back home and plug it in and power the house for another couple days. You might have to do that if it's a really long power outage. The one charge might not be enough to power the whole house for the whole power outage. So yeah, you can set a limit. You can say, leave 100 miles of range, leave 50 miles of range. And what'll happen is you'll start getting notifications in your app as you get close to hitting that limit. then you can decide, hey, maybe you talk to your utility and they said, oh, the power is going to be on in another hour, don't worry. And at that point you'll say, well, you know what, then I'll remove the limit. I want to keep the house powered the whole time. And then when the power comes back on, instead of powering the house, the truck will just immediately start to be charged. But you get to make that decision. You'll get notifications. The app will remind you, hey, you're getting close to your limit. What do you want to do? You want to keep powering the house, or do you want me to shut off when we hit your limit? And another thing is there a limit on how low you can go? Like I asked Ford, are you allowed to drain the battery completely down to zero? Or will the intelligent backup automatically say stop at like 2% state of charge? And they told me, no, there's no limit. If you want to drain the battery down till it's completely dead, then they're going to let you do that. Now, all batteries have buffers, low-end buffers, high-end buffers. So when it runs down to zero and the state of charge and intelligent backup power shuts off, the battery's not completely drained. If it was completely drained, you'd be out of luck. You'd brick your battery. You wouldn't even be able to charge it. But manufacturers know this, so they have a low-end and a high-end buffer in the battery. It's basically energy that's in the battery that you don't get to access. So when zero isn't really a true zero, there's probably a couple of kilowatt hours still in the pack. But at that point, when it does go down to zero, you really want to plug it in as soon as possible, because you can damage your battery if you let it drain down to zero or a very low state of charge, and then you let it sit for a while. That's really bad for all electric vehicle batteries. You can pull it down to a very low state of charge or even to zero. I've done that plenty of times. But when it gets down to that point, you want to plug it in immediately and charge it back up. You don't want to leave a battery that's completely empty or completely full and sit, because those are things that help bring on early battery degradation, capacity loss. So you don't want to treat your battery that way. You want to treat your battery good so it gives you many years of service. And finally, question number 15. How long can intelligent backup power your house? Now, I see on Ford's website, it says up to 3 days. But the calculations they used for that was about as fuzzy as when they told us that you needed a 320 amp service for your house. Now, I'm being a little hard on Ford there. It's very difficult for them to tell you how long you can power your house with intelligent backup power, because every house has different needs, different electric draws. It really depends. Do you have electric heat, electric ranges like I talked about before? Those things draw a lot of electricity. So when Ford said it can power your house up to 3 days, they were using the extended range battery Lightning that has 131 kilowatt hour. And they were saying the average home needs about 30 kilowatt hour a day. So they were saying, okay, that's 90 kilowatt hour of use. You've got 131 kilowatt hour battery pack. You probably want to leave 50 or 60 miles of range left in the truck, so it's not going to drain it down to zero. So they just kind of threw 3 days out there. But they also said that can vary depending on your house. And that's basically what I'm telling you. I can't tell you how long you can power your house. If you're wise and you really limit your electric use, you don't waste electricity during power outages, you could make it last a long time. Ford used that example of 30 kilowatt hour per day. If you don't have a really big house, if you don't have a lot of electric appliances, and if you don't waste energy, you could probably live on like 20 kilowatt hour a day. So think about that. You got 131 kilowatt hour battery pack on the extended range battery pack. If you're very wise with your electric use, you can probably pull only 20 kilowatt hour a day. So you can do the math. I mean, you could last a week nearly running your power. Now, if it's an extended power outage like that, like we had here in New Jersey, a few years back when we had Hurricane Sandy, we lost power for 14 days. I mean, no matter how much you save energy, the Lightning isn't going to power your house for 14 days. Unless you have really one of those tiny homes, then it might do it for a month. But what you probably would do in that case was power the house until as much as it could. And then you'd probably unplug, shut your house down, and then drive your truck to a DC fast charger somewhere. Typically, when there's power outages, it's not like statewide. I mean, you know, I know Texas had a really bad power outage a couple of years ago, but I mean, that's really abnormal. It can happen, but typically when there's power outages, you can find a DC fast charger somewhere not too far from your house, depending on where you live. If you live in really rural areas, there aren't that many. But where we live here, I mean, I have dozens of DC fast chargers within 60 or 70 miles from my house. And I can always, unplug the truck, drive to one of those, fill back up to 100, then come back and then plug it back in and power my house again. So, if during extended power outages, depending on where you live, you might have to, unplug the truck, shut the house down for an hour or two as you drive, recharge the truck, and then come back and plug back in. But you should be able to power the house for a long time. And if you use your electricity wisely, it'll last pretty long. Now, obviously, the standard range battery pack is smaller. That has 98 kilowatt hour usable energy, not the 131. So you'd have to be even more stingy with your electricity use. But in most cases, power outages don't last multiple days. We get a lot of power outages here in northern New Jersey. They're for 6 hours, 8 hours, 10 hours. Power is usually restored. We only lose power for a really long time when there's some kind of catastrophic weather event where, there's trees down everywhere and it takes the utility a long time to get your power up. Most power outages are less than 1 day. And in that case, either the standard range or extended range battery pack would be more than you need to power your house and really use whatever electric appliances you'd like to use, because the battery is going to have more than enough energy to power you for the period that the power outage occurs. Well, that's all we have here today on Ford's intelligent backup power system. I hope the 15 questions I asked Ford covered all of the questions you had about the system, but I'm sure I didn't get everyone's question answered. So do me a favor, if you have a question that I didn't address, leave it in the comment section below. I'm going to be monitoring those comments, and I'm sure Ford's going to be also. What I'll do is I'll take some of the most popular questions, I'll forward them to Ford, and then I'll get you the answers that you seek. I want to make sure this video answers as many questions about the system as possible. As I said earlier, I realized so many people had so many questions about this really cool, really unique system. I mean, I'm excited about it. It's really the first electric vehicle that's going to be able to power your home in the case of power outages. And I think that's something that we're going to see very common in the coming years. I believe this is what all electric vehicles are going to be able to do in another 5 or 6 years. It's part of the reason why I'm so excited about electric vehicles. They're going to allow us to do things that internal combustion engine vehicles just couldn't. It's really a whole new frontier in the automobile industry. So, well, listen, if you like what we're doing here, if you like this video, please click that subscribe button, ring the notification bell, and give me a like so you don't miss any upcoming content here on State of Charge. And thanks for watching.